Hi, Kitchen Kings and Queens. Okay, today I'm going to make a special dish. I've been invited to a Hanukkah party with my sister-in-law and her family. So I'm going to make something I made before, but I've not ever made it on video. This is called Josh's Challah, and it's a stuffed challah. It's loosely based off of a recipe from Molly Ye on Food Network. So it's a really great, rich challah, and then it's stuffed. And I'll go over the stuffing when we get there and kind of go about the story behind it. But we're going to make the dough, which is directly from the Molly Ye recipe. So I use her dough as a base, and then I kind of get a little creative with my filling and with how I top it. Okay, so let's get started. Okay, Kitchen Kings and Queens. So we're gonna start with 1.5 cups of warm water into the mixing bowl. Okay, to that we're gonna add 4.5 tablespoons or teaspoons of active dry yeast. I'm also going to add the sugar at this point. Okay, so the reason why I'm adding the sugar at this point is because the sugar is what feeds the yeast. Okay, I'm going to take a little whisk here. I'm just going to kind of get it started. Okay, so the warm water creates the environment for the yeast to start activating. And this is really how you tell if your yeast is good. Okay, so what'll happen is after a little bit of time, the yeast will start bubbling up, and that will be foamy, and hopefully there'll be a little bit of like bubbles and thickness there as well. So that shows that the yeast is starting. Okay. And then the other things that we're going to add is and we're going to add this into another mixer bowl. Okay, so I'm going to push this aside and bring this bowl in. Okay, so we're going to add our dry ingredients there. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to add the flour, and this is 6.5 cups. 4 cups is all-purpose flour. That's at the bottom that you just saw. And then there's 2.5 cups of whole wheat flour, and that's added at the top. And that is really, the whole wheat flour just adds a lot more richness to the whole meal, or to the bread. Okay, it adds sweetness, especially with some of the things I'm going to put on the top. I really like the combination of the whole wheat flour. If you don't have whole wheat flour, that's fine. You can just use all of the regular all-purpose flour. But I like to add that mixture because the whole wheat adds a little bit of a nuttiness, but that's really kind of the maximum of the whole wheat that you would want to add to the mixture. Okay, then we're also going to add some salt. Okay, and that is 2 teaspoons of salt. Okay, and then we're going to add just about 1/4 teaspoon of sugar. Okay, I'm sorry, 1 teaspoon of sugar. Okay, so we're going to add that as well. Okay, so what we had added to the yeast was a quarter cup of sugar. So that 1 teaspoon of sugar we added in here with the salt and the flour. Okay, so those are essentially our dry ingredients. We have our leavener here, and then we have our wet ingredients that we're gonna add. Okay, so I'm gonna switch out the bowls here. Okay, let this yeast one keep going. And this is going to be the bowl that we're going to work in, the dry ingredients. Okay, so we're going to bring the mixer back into focus here. And we're just going to run it for a little bit just to combine those dry ingredients. Okay, while we continue our leavening. And while that is mixing, we're going to take our oil here, and I actually use corn oil in here. You don't really want to use olive oil. You can, I would say, use light olive oil if you want to. But you don't want to use like an extra virgin olive oil. And then we're going to add 4 of our eggs here. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4. Probably enough. And we're going to combine that together. Okay. That other egg we're going to save for later. That's going to be part of our glaze. Okay, so we're going to break up our egg yolks there. I'm going to shift this over so you can see. So we broke up our egg yolks, and now we're just going to whisk this together. Okay, and you want to do that carefully because you don't want to get that all over the place. Okay, so I think we're good there. And then we're pretty much ready to start mixing. Okay, so you just want to combine these two. And for time's sake, I really kind of portioned this out so that you didn't have to watch me measuring and we could just focus on this. Because this is a pretty easy section. Okay, all right. So we're gonna pull back in our yeast here. Okay, so you can see the yeast is foamy. Okay, see the bubbles on the top, and there's a little bit of sugar at the bottom, so we're just gonna kind of make sure that's combined in there because we don't want to prevent the yeast from having any food. Okay. So this is just to get the yeast started, okay? You don't have to worry about this. As long as you have signs that the yeast is alive and doing what it's supposed to be doing, you're good. Okay, so most of the rising and the carbon dioxide production and the fermentation, most of that all happens during the resting period. Okay, so we have our mixture here, our dry mixture. And then we're going to put in our yeast mixture. Okay. And then we're going to start mixing. And then we're going to add in our oil and egg mixture. Okay. And the nice thing about this recipe is you really don't have to baby it. Okay. You just kind of throw it all together and it mixes. Okay. So this is the mixing part. Okay. And you want to make sure that you are also scraping in the flour on the sides here. Okay, be careful not to get your spoon caught with the mixer. Okay, especially the dough hook, because the dough hook really kind of pulls things in, okay, which is the whole purpose of it, okay? So if you're not comfortable doing it the way I am, and really for the longevity of your machine and for your own safety, I would say stop the mixer and scrape it down a little bit, but I feel pretty confident that I know the movement of the mixture. But if you are not familiar with that, you might want to stop it and scrape it down. And I will do that at some point. But as you can see here, the mixture is already coming together. Okay, so we already have a nice ball of dough forming there, and it's incorporating in the excess flour. And the flour is free that it can come into the mixture. So we probably won't have to do too much more scraping down. And notice that I am on the lowest setting. Like if you heard the mixture, like here, I'll turn it back off. I literally am on the very first setting. When you are mixing and kneading dough, okay, if you want a tender dough, which who doesn't want a tender dough, who wants tough bread, you need to keep the mixer at the lowest setting, okay? When you use a commercial mixer, there's 3 settings. There's low, medium, and high. And you only ever mix dough on the low setting because the other ones, they just make it too tough, okay? So don't over mix your dough. You see, we're just about there. We want to make sure that all the ingredients are incorporated and that the dough is nice and smooth and elastic. When that happens, we're going to stop the mixer. We're going to knead it a little bit by hand. We're going to oil the bowl. Okay, we're going to put, I like to use the same bowl. Okay, a lot of recipes tell you to use a clean bowl. I have found that I don't want to do all that extra dishes, and it works just fine using the bowl that's there. Okay, especially if you mix it thoroughly, which we are here. Okay. So we're just about there, and then we can take this off the mixer and we'll let it rest. And the dough has to rest for at least 2 hours. Okay. So what you're going to do is you're going to take the dough and you're going to take it out, make sure it's nice and smooth, make sure you have a smooth end of the dough, and then you're going to put it in there, you're going to wrap it with plastic, and I'm going to put it down in my laundry room on top of my furnace because you want it on a nice warm area of the house, and that is really the warmest area of my house. Okay, so you can also turn on an oven and then turn it off, and then that's good stuff. Okay, so as you can see inside the oven, it's all mixed, Okay, we're just gonna scrape down some of the stuff on the side here. We want to scrape it off of the dough hook. Thank you, Mr. Mixer. You've done a great job. We're going to move you out of the way. This is my personal favorite mixer. That was from a line called the Custom Metallics, and they are very hard to find, but the 6-quart, which that is, the bowl lift, that one's even harder to find than the tilt heads. So it's that one is the brushed nickel model, and there was a chrome model, which is very hard to find, and then there was a copper one, and I just missed out on a copper tilt head. In fact, interestingly enough, it was actually at my appliance repair guy's shop. He was selling it, and he sold it out at the shop, and it was a beautiful mixer, but I don't have the space, and I don't really need any more mixers, so I had to put it aside and not think about it. But it was sad when I found out that it was sold. Okay, so we're gonna take out this dough. As you could see, this is a hearty bread, and this is gonna make 2 challah loaves. Okay, it's a lot of dough. Okay, it makes 2 challah loaves, and trust me, if you make Josh's challah, I can assure you, you will need 2 loaves, because everyone loves this, okay? Just like everyone loves Josh. I mean, how could you not love him? But the challah, you'll see, it's kind of a recipe that I came up with from different variations of this challah that I made for other events. But this version that I made in honor of Josh is it represents him. Okay, so you see I put some oil in the bowl. That's to prevent sticking. It's also to give it a little bit of body too. Okay, so we just want to roll the dough, and we just want to smooth it out. Okay, notice I'm pushing and then pulling, and it's smoothing out. And the machine did most of it. Okay, and then what you want to do is you want to make sure that you pull together everything on the one side, and then the top side is nice and smooth. Okay, then you're going to take your bowl, you're going to dip the smooth side in the oil, and then you're going to do the same on the other side, so that on top you flip it back over, and on top is your smooth side. Okay, and that's going to rise, and I'm just going to put a little extra oil in there, especially around the sides. Okay, it's not going to hurt anything. You're not even going to necessarily use that oil. Okay, but what it will do is it will prevent the dough from sticking. Okay, so here's our dough, and I am pulling out the cling film here. Okay, and we're going to take that cling film, and we're just going to make sure it tightly and tautly covers the bowl. And this is where you're going to really find out that everything is working chemically with your yeast. Okay, because in 2 hours, we're going to look back at this dough, and the dough should be double in size. So that means it should be like, there should be like this much space, left in the top of the bowl. Okay, so it's gonna increase in size quite a bit. Okay, so we'll come back when that's ready to roll out, and then you'll get another peek at it. All right, bye for now, Kitchen Kings and Queens. Okay, hi Kitchen Kings and Queens, we are back, okay? And as you can see, our dough has risen, and it's gotten nice and airy, okay? So we're gonna create the filling, and then we're gonna fill this, okay? So some of the things that I have for this filling, and I'm just gonna bring the bowl over here, the food processor bowl for the Oscar, and we're just gonna add the things in, okay? So we got 2 cloves of garlic in there, and then we've got about 3 green onions, okay, or scallions, okay? We're gonna put them in, and we're gonna chop these up. That's what we're gonna start with. Okay, so we have our scallions and our garlic chopped up, okay? Now we're gonna add the cream cheese. So that's about, I would say about a 1/4 cup of cream cheese in there. And we're gonna add some shallot in there. You know me and my shallot, especially for Josh. For Josh's challah, we've gotta add shallot. Okay, that's his favorite word. Okay, so we're gonna put that in there. And then we're gonna add the cheese. And this is that Land O'Lakes cheese blend that I mention and talk about all the time. So it's called Creamy Italian Blend. We're gonna add that in there, okay? And then this will become like a paste, okay? And that's what we're gonna fill the challah. This is where we get Josh's challah, because this mixture is basically an amalgam of Josh's parents, my brother and my sister-in-law, Lori. Okay, so you got some traditional bagel fillings in there with the cream cheese and the chives, and then you have some Italian in there, and that's for my brother. And then we're gonna top the challah with a garlic honey butter mixture. Okay, so we're going to use that honey that we had from before. I'm going to heat that up. Honeycomb We're gonna put that in a little pan here. And we're gonna add a little garlic powder to that. Okay. My knife here. And we're going to add that in. Okay. And we're gonna heat that up with some butter. Okay. Okay, I know it seems like we got a lot going on here, but it will all come together. I have the oven heating at 350, so that's going. Okay, and there's our butter and honey in the pan. And we're gonna put some garlic powder in there. And we're gonna put a little bit of chive on top too. Okay. We're gonna put that on the stove here, and we just want that to get warm. Okay. I'm gonna take this mixture here, and I'm gonna pop it into a piping bag here. Okay. I have this piping bag. We're gonna scoop it all out. Put our honey over there. I'm gonna scoop it out, and that way it'll be ready to pipe into the challah strands. Okay, so you're gonna see how this is all gonna come together. Okay, so I just want to get this all ready so that when we're ready to rock and roll, we are ready to rock and roll. Okay. All right. So we have our filling, and now we're going to squeeze it down the piping bag here. So it's at the bottom. Get this out of the way. And then we can deal with the dough. Okay, so we're gonna get all this stuff out of the way. Clear off our cutting board here. Our table here. And it's really important that your table is both clean and dry. Okay? So we're gonna clean this off. And now we're gonna dry it off. And then we're gonna get started dealing with our dough. And I'm gonna throw down a little bit of flour on this table. Okay, now I'm gonna tell you, this flour, it's just a protection step, and it's really kind of unnecessary because the dough is so rich that it really doesn't need that. It's not really going to stick to the table. Okay, so we're going to pull out our dough, and like I said, we're doing two loaves of challah. So we're going to divide this in half, And we're going to deal with it in 2 separate ways. Okay, then we're going to take our first challah dough here. Okay, I had to switch cameras because apparently there's no storage on that phone, which is total bull hockey, but okay, that's fine. Hopefully I can get this video together. Okay, so we stretched it out into 3 different strands here. Okay, now we're going to take a piping bag and we're going to pipe some filling in the center of each one. Okay. And I think I'm only going to be able to get 1, so we're just going to add a little more to each one here. All right, and then what we're going to do is we're going to close up our braids. Okay, so we're going to fold them over. And make sure that it's closed. And do the same with this one. And we're making strands here, okay? Okay, our butter and honey is melted. I'm gonna take this off the heat because we need this to be cool so that we can put the egg in, because this is gonna wind up being the egg wash. Okay, so we are ready. Okay, so we're gonna bring our braids near each other and then we're going to affix them together and then we're just gonna braid them. Okay. All right. Now that one, and then that one. And I have to say, braiding is not my forte here, okay? But I think I can do a pretty good job with this, okay? And just make sure that you keep your filling inside, okay? You know, just do the best job you can with the braiding. Okay, I do as best a job as I can. Voila. Okay, now we have a challah braided. I'm going to take this sheet pad and we're going to transfer the braid to here. Okay, make sure it's all well held together. Okay, got a little pop out here. Okay, just tuck it in. Okay, and I'm gonna tell you, it's gonna come out. Okay, some of it will come out, and that's okay. It's still gonna be delicious. Okay, so there is our challah braid. Okay, it doesn't look super pretty, especially down here. So maybe we'll try and fix that a little bit. Okay, all right. Now I have my butter mixture. We had our egg from earlier, and I'm just going to whip that up. Okay, so we're gonna take the egg, we're gonna whip it, whisk it all the way up. Okay, we're gonna pour in our garlic, butter mixture in there. Yeah. Make sure it gets all incorporated. It gets really nice and thick. And then we're going to use a pastry brush to brush this onto our bread. Hopefully I can find it. Okay, here we go. All right. So here's our egg mixture, and I kind of really get generous with this, okay, because it really adds a nice flavor. You get the sweetness of the honey, which then brings out the sweetness in the whole wheat. It just gives it a nice glaze. It's a very nice mixture, okay? And I'm gonna save this because I'm gonna make more challah. I can't now because I am running way late for the Hanukkah celebration. I do not want to get into any trouble. So I'm just gonna do this one, okay? Make sure it's all done there. Okay, and the last ingredient is the everything bagel seasoning. Okay, so we're gonna generously sprinkle that on the top. And that's got all your classic bagel flavors. Okay, and I want to put a little bit of my Maldon sea salt on there. Okay, and that will hopefully give a nice little flavor. Okay, a little bit of chives on there, give it just a little color, and that's it. Okay, so we're gonna throw this in the oven for 35 minutes at 350. And we're good. Okay, our challahs are about to come out of the oven. Okay, so we're gonna take them out. We have a simple challah here, and then we have Josh's challah. And boy, does it look good. Okay, so here's Josh's challah. Okay, I'll take that off of this pan. And I just have to loosen it. This is a really forgiving dough. Okay, and we're going to put that on there. And then I think I'll bring the regular challah too. And I am going to be on my way. Okay. So there you have it. 2 different challah. One is my creation for Josh. Okay, that's this one here. And then this is just a regular challah. I wish I had braided it, but I didn't really have time. So I'm going to head out now. Have a happy Hanukkah to those of you that celebrate, and Merry Christmas to those of you that are celebrating Christmas. We'll have a lot more with that coming up. Bye. Bye for now, Kitchen Kings and Queens.